project has been, for the last 30 years I've been working on the Gold Coast area. So we're working on, it's 5 rivers. Balun is river, Danggan is hand, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 2 twos and 1. That is egg rock in the hinterland, and of course the other picture is just from Burley Heads, from Jugun, looking north up the coast.
I'm not sure that's working.
It was working before. Right. Okay. This is a contribution to the history of sorry, excuse me while I get this organised. I'm working between the inland and the sea, between the coast and the Logan to the Tweed, from the north to the south. This territory occupied by the Jugun speaking clans. These are the people up on the border ranges. The Balun people are split into 2 by the border ranges, and most of the people are living in the Clarence Valley area. The rest of them are on the north. It's a smaller group on the north, only 5 clans, probably about 20 clans further south. The rivers, Logan, Albert, Pimpama, Coomera, Narang, and if you come down the coast you've got Talabudgera Creek, which is right by Burley Heads, and Crosby Creek, which is very close to the border. Yes. The Bunjalungit languages, they share languages, but every clan has its own dialect. Very, very determined, we say. This is the general area. I have to, how do I go backwards? There. Huh? Looks as if that's the way it's meant to go. There's the names of the clans. How many areas have we got? How do we know how many people there were living there perhaps about in the 1830s? The area is about 5,350 square kilometres. It's divided amongst 5 clans. The Wongeraba, the Wongeraba, the people of the Pretty Wallaby, the Kumbameri, the Kumbormeri, the people who eat teredo worms or cobras, mangrove worms on the coast. These are nicknames. Wongeraba is the name of the guy who knew his own name. He gave the other clans their nicknames. The other clans do not know what they would have called themselves, so we're stuck with the nicknames. So Balun is the people who live on the river. Gim is the pluralizer, so river people or swamp dwellers. Mananjali, that probably refers to the baked earth, and the Mananjali people are the most easterly of the people who practice cooking using a large clay slab, which you make a nice round, hot plate, essentially, of clay, put your fire over the top, cook the thing to a brick where it gets to about 800 degrees C, shut the fire off, put your damper on top, put a few ashes over the top, and lo and behold, it cooks. Mananjali, Jali is a name that applies to clans. And Migamuri, or Migambar, people of the spikes, or people of the mountains, Barang meaning inhabitants of. You'll listen, there's Balungin and Migambar. But you could equally, if they wanted to, they could have said Balunbar and Migamgin. But it doesn't sound quite so nice, so I think there's a lot of euphony going on in there. People like the sounds, the way it rolls off the tongue. Now, how many people? 5 clans? The estimates range from 65 to 150. Lila's husband Malcolm, who did a a lot of work with the Bunjalung in the Clarence River area, estimated about 100, 30 adult males, 30 adult females, approximately per clan. So if you work that out, and then if you take the area that the clans are known to have, and the only one we have a map of is Wangeribara, they turn out to be between 1 to 13 square kilometres to 1 to 8.5. The Balun and the Kumameri, if you count the big, they're the coastal peoples, they're on the edge, they've got a lot more fish and other resources. They come down to a lot more people per density. And similarly, the people on the far outside, the western people, turn out to be quite a lot. So, here we are. This is Lane's original map. I've tried to put it approximately over there, and it's very approximately. But that shows you about where the Wangeribara land was. And I've put approximate boundaries in for Coomera River, Morang River, Upper Albert and across to and up into the Teviot Brook area. So living on country with links to everything. According to the traditional link, everything has got a song. When it's oral knowledge is power. And if you don't know it, or if you aren't entrusted with it, if you're a rubbish woman and you're not given any credence, you don't learn it. It's only the very experienced elders, the clever men, the clever women. It's set in with customary law. Customary law is very much unambiguous. These are amazingly unambiguous. Their kinship system is about the least ambiguous kinship system you could possibly imagine. But it also is one size fits all in that sense, and one size clearly doesn't fit all. So no matter how theoretically good the traditional old rule was, it doesn't actually quite fit. So the rules have to be very strictly enforced, and every clan's ruled by a group of elders. It's quite an oligarchical system, and you have to be elected to it. I remember my tribal brother in Tiwi, when he started to get white hair, was very chuffed because he could be allowed to speak adult male language and join in making adult male decisions. You have to conform. So here we are. Let's see. Everything is linked. Travel is linked, that's Mount Lindsay, with its ogre pointing out the top. If you travel through the high country that way, you walk through the high country, you don't stop to pick anything up, you don't have a piss by the side of the pathway, you don't do anything you shouldn't do, and you walk straight through and don't do it. And if you don't, there's a story of a boy who got really fed up, so he was picking berries and dancing this, and doing that. He got turned into the mountain you can see behind. That's the story. That's the enforcement story. Do not muck it up. There's also a large amount of poorer grounds and ceremonial grounds. The landscape is linked, not just in the way that we see it, but in traditional pathways and through traditional patterns. However, although you have got it, the clans actually quite nicely divide into ecological and geological slightly different zones. So that on the west, where you've got the Mununjali and the Meganbury, you've got a lot of Kunjaboy, which is the picture at the bottom. You've got Moreton Bay chestnuts. You've got a really careful fire stick farming, which keeps a lot of the ground clear, open forest, quite a long distance between all trees. There's plenty of fish in the rivers. There are plenty of emus out there. There's no emus around there anymore, but there are emus in the stories in the 1820s when the first explorers went through. And of course there's mussels and things like that in the river. In the centre, mostly Mount Tamarine. Yams were very, very important. There's also the kind of zamia, which rejoices in the name of Lepidozamia perovskiana. There's plenty of game. You can get turkey eggs. The average apparently is about 17 eggs per nest. And there's a lovely way of cooking turkey eggs. If you've got all your turkey eggs, you've made your fire, and you keep your ashes away, and you set the eggs down upright in there. You break the tops, and they cook in the ashes. And while they're doing that, you stir them. You stir it up, and you make a scrambled egg inside each egg, which is something I'm dying to try. But I haven't done it yet. And of course, there's lots and lots of seasonal fruit. And on the coast, the bumwall is the main one. Mangrove worms were very important. Fish, shellfish, game, seasonal fruits once again. That's there. So it seems to work quite nicely. But how does this work out? This I thought was quite interesting when you work out how much food value you actually get from some of these main things. I haven't put the rest of the time of the table in, but when I get over to my notes, for comparison, potatoes, 100 grams of potatoes gives you 12 grams of carbohydrate. Rice gives you 29 grams of carbohydrate. Maize or corn gives you 23.5. Peas are 14% carbohydrate, and wheat flour is 76% carbohydrate. But that's not as high as either the sausage, which, if you're trying to collect those seeds, is most tedious and long and not high-yielding process. And I couldn't even find references to mat rushes. Mat rushes produce quite beautiful seeds, but I couldn't find anyone who'd done any testing on mat rushes to find out how much carbohydrate there was in them. But you'll notice that the bumwall is particularly high, about 80-something% of carbohydrate per 100 gram of edible food. That's an enormous amount when you think that the bracken range is between 22 and 54, according to which samples. That's from New Zealand. It's a colleague of mine in New Zealand has been doing some work on how you cook bracken roots. But people here ate bracken roots, but it's not as high. And the other things, there's a whole range of other things that we could have looked at. So, the main important extra food is the bunya nut. People came from huge distances, but you'll notice that the original bunyas were very carefully controlled. They were not, anyone who grows bunyas know that they grow anywhere. So they were very carefully controlled over who was allowed to grow them and where the bunyas were allowed to grow. So very few people. Now the messenger system worked out. So A told B, and B told C, and then C went and told D and E, and a few people came from all sorts of places over. The longest distance people have come out, I'm not quite sure if they got as far as Charleville, but they're certainly, Dolby is well known as a place, possibly Lismore and all that sort of area down the south end is all well known for. And it's interesting. It uses up. If the initial excuse must be for a feast, to use up excess food that you can't otherwise preserve, and you don't want it to go to waste. The only preservative that I know of for bunyias is to soak them in a swamp for about 3 months. If you get them out and the little growing sprout falls off, then they're ready to eat, and the stories are that they stink like nobody's business. It's absolutely dreadful stuff. But everybody says they love it, and of course when you get it, you have to hit the seeds with you have to crack the seeds before you put them in the fire, otherwise they'll just sit away. So the rules must have been very strict. The alternative to a carbohydrate feast is a fat feast. And the mullet is the one that provides all the extra food. They have particularly, it happens all around the coast. I know it happens up here, it happens on the south coast. The dolphins were not used south of the Richmond River to help and assist. And the story for that one goes that someone south of the Richmond River actually caught a dolphin in a net and pulled it up on the beach and butchered it. And the dolphins thereupon refused any further cooperation with the people down there because of this total lack of respect. But it happened, there was reports from Geelong of dolphins being used. It's a very, very widespread technique. The most fascinating one is Eden on New South Wales coast, where the biggest of the porpoises of all, the killer whales, were used to herd whales into the beach. Big whales into the beach. So when Ben Boyd came down to establish his whaling thing in Eden, there was a whaling industry well and truly underway down there anyway. He simply took it over and took it out to sea a bit further, as far as I can see. So these nets, these tow row nets, they're very strong, they're quite big. I'll put it down. You hold it on your arm. Fishermen have bunions on the outside of their exostosis, on the outside of their wrist bones, from the continual effort to support these nets, especially when they're full of them. And it's exactly just like a button. So here's the question. Anthropology works with living peoples and with the historical records that we've got. Archaeology works with past peoples. So the question is, for all of us, how do the data sets match up? Archaeology works with technology, but technology is very widely similar over a huge area of eastern Australia. And it doesn't match up with the social complexity. So how do we sort it out? How do we get it out? That is a large chunk, possibly a bumble pounder on the edge of this, one of the local silk reeds from the Burton Ranges. So what is, and you notice I'm not saying material culture, what is technology? It's not just tool making. These chimps are fishing for termites, the sea otters with a lump of rock on their tummies bashing up a shellfish that's too hard for their teeth to bite, and these incredible crows from New Caledonia, where they actually form the central spines of pandanus leaves, tear them into pieces and form them into shapes. They even form them into hooks, and they will poke them into holes in bark to spear witchetty grubs and pull them out. It's a very, very fascinating tool use. So Johnson's gloss, the story about this is, you all know about Man the Toolmaker, and Benjamin Franklin has got highly credited for the definition of man and the toolmaker, that they were at dinner in London with Samuel Johnson and a few other people. Walter, of course, recorded it. And Johnson was reported to have said, Dr. Franklin's definition is all very well, because only a man makes a tool with which he can make another. And this is still the crucial changeover between tool making and using and technology. Making something that you can make something else with, or use to make something else. So what did we find? This is an unfinished boomerang. You can see it's unfinished by the grooves that go in it. It's exactly like a carpenter would do today, with cutting grooves so that you know what level you're thinning the thing off at. This is a little piece of rock. You have, imagine it's just an ordinary shaped flake, and you've snapped a bit off that side, a bit off that side, and you've left a little point. It's about 3 millimeters across, and you can groove. And on that side, I found more of these burins, they call them, than I found anywhere else on the Gold Coast. Now, boomerangs are very, very complicated. The arms are opposite, the curve, the angle of the shape is completely opposite. My paper on it is called Danggan, Jugun, Gumbanini, and unfinished boomerang from the swamp. So the cross-section of the arms is essential. The curve is not so essential. You can actually have a straight returning boomerang if you've got the curves right on the edges. So how do we go? If you're going to describe, I hope this is not boring, if you're going to describe how a boomerang works or how you use it, then you've got to think of all sorts of things. If you're going to go duck hunting, which is what the returning boomerangs seem mostly to be used for, they can also be used for hunting parrots. You've got to think of social requirements, equipment, preparation time, how you implement the whole thing, and what are the outcomes. So just to go through so you need to have a knowledge. I'm sorry to write so much up on the boards in this sense. You need to have the outcome, you need to have a solution, you need enough time, you need to locate the place, you need to know it's duck breeding season. There's no point in hunting ducks if there aren't any. Need to get all the equipment organised, and need to assign tasks. So what do you need? You need to determine the equipment, replacement, refurbishment, need a list, need time. So if you go, if you need 3 months to make a net, then someone says, well, it's coming up, it's duck hunting season, we better get making nets ready, just ready. So you have a lot of lead time. You've got to make your boomerangs, and your boomerangs are not the easiest things to make. Our ones are made out of black wattle, mostly. So if we just consider a returning boomerang, what are you going to use it for? How does it work? What material do you use? How do you treat that material? How does it behave when you use it? Who makes them? When do they make them? Where do they make them? And how do you learn how to use them? And how are you allowed to learn how to use them? Because women are not allowed to use boomerangs. So, implementing the whole thing, getting the whole duck hunt going. You've got, you need to, what do you need to do? You have to have the net in place. You have to get the people who are going to actually catch the ducks in place before the ducks are aware that what's going on. You have to have men stationed at the right places so they can scare the ducks. And you need to club them, and you need some way of holding all the ducks together, bags or tie the eggs together with strings or something of the sort like this. The hunt's short. There's no ceremony involved with this. Many, many things involve ceremony of propitiation before you start even. Before you can even begin to implement something, you have to do the right rituals, you have to have the right ceremonies. It doesn't always require that, but other people have to make sure that there's firewood so you can cook the ducks. You need to prepare. The cooking process appears to be that you take your duck, you throw it on the fire, you get it half cooked, then you take it off the fire and take the entrails out, and then you put it back on the fire again. And much the same thing happened for bigger game. With turtles, you make sure that they sat it up like that so that the gravy stayed in the shell of the tortoise. And with big kangaroos, you probably put a lot of red hot rocks inside to assist the cooking process. So outcomes. There's quite a lot of them are intangible and sociable, and so of course we know that. The outcomes, main result, more food, more equipment, useful lubricants, store the waste. So this is just when you describe how describing one kind of artifact, the enormousness of the system within which it has to work, and it's as much a social system as it is a real system. So, just to summarise up, the people are the Jugun speaking clans. There are five clans, 5 dialects. There's only one dictionary because there's not enough known of each dialect to make a complete dictionary for each one. But Margaret Sharp is working very hard to sort out what the dictionary, what the clans, different clans might have used, and she'll be able to put a comparative dictionary up, same way as, if anyone knows, Edward Tregear did for the Polynesian languages in the 1880s. Basically, the underlying technology is basically the same. Archaeologists looking at the underlying technology would not really be able to pick up cultural, technological differences between them. But socially we can. Each clan is governed by elders. Now I must say that the Jugun-speaking clans do not have a section system, they do not have moieties. They run onto, but they're the only bits of Australia that I know about that don't conform to the section and moiety system that almost everywhere else does. Each clan is governed by a group of elders. They are politically autonomous, socially autonomous, linguistically unique. They have enough food on their every piece of clan territory has enough food to support the clan in ordinary circumstances. So that's how the system is divided up. You have to, so that's why more resources have smaller territories, lesser resources have bigger territories. The people themselves, probably all genetically similar, related, but the whole system is governed by very strict marriage and kinship rules, and you are not allowed, or were not allowed to break them in the old days. So, we seem to have a gap in summary. So, everyone's related to everyone else, and there's wide connections, the Bunya feasts, the other connections, the initiation ceremonies, which I haven't talked about, the trade networks. There are enormous distances. There are stories of young men who had just been initiated, the kippers, as they were called in many ways. They were grouped together into big groups and taken with an elder as a mentor. And it looks as if the ones that Hewitt recorded for the South Coast have people from as far away as Mununjali, Stradbroke Island, Tweed, south of the Tweed. In other words, the initiation ceremony circuit, so to speak, created amongst the men, at any rate, an enormous acquaintanceship network which overrides the kinship network, overrides the everyone is connected and somehow to everyone else. As a side to that, if I ever get stuck out in the middle of the desert somewhere and someone comes along and says, "Who are you?" And I say, "I'm dying of a drink. Can I have a drink of water there?" Because you can't drink unless you're invited to drink. You wait by the water. Someone comes along and says, you say, "Can I have a drink?" "Who are you?" I say, "Oh, Dan Witter's my classificatory uncle." "Oh, we know who Dan Witter is, because Dan Witter worked at Wittawinchi for many, many years. Dan Witter's wife married a cousin of mine. So, Dan Witter's wife's niece married a cousin of mine, which makes him my uncle, even though he's younger than me, classificatory system. He's my uncle. I can establish a relationship right through that way, if I absolutely had to. And that's essential. Kinship is the one thing that keeps all the Aboriginal people together. So here we are again. I'm trying to set up. The archaeology is just on a coarser scale than the social actuality. And I think with the work on the 5 rivers, I'm trying to clarify how ethno-history and emphasise how necessary ethnography is to archaeology. We do have a sorry history. It started out, Cunningham came over the gap in 1827. Cunningham found the Darling Downs. He went back to Sydney. He came up to Brisbane because he realised he was close enough to Brisbane that he could get up onto the Darling Downs from the land, and he could see a gap in the hills, and he thought he could get there. That was the beginning of the real invasion. Captain Logan went down, began exploring. There's a story that some of anyone who's read the Vandemonian Wars just recently, there's a story of Aboriginal people from Brisbane being sent to Hobart as early as 1830 to be part of the native police. The native police, because people from more than about 50 or even 10 miles away sometimes, were complete strangers to each other. They were enemies, so it was easy to get people from distant clans to regard people who looked to our eyes almost exactly like them. But they were enemies. Well, they could be made into enemies very, very easily. Therefore, you could set one lot of blacks against another lot of blacks. It was easy, wasn't it? You didn't have to take any blame for it. In fact, the only people who survived were the ones who were able to make bargains of some sort. Out of possibly 300 traditional owners in the Mununjali country, and if you count the others, in all 5 countries, there are still only about 20 apical ancestors for a possible 600 or so people. So that's how many died. And work out how many families were eliminated in this period up until about 1880. Then we had this dreadfully named Act, which put most people from their traditional land onto reserves. Once again, setting people who had absolutely no concept of who the next folk, making them live together. It must have been incredibly difficult and very difficult. However, after 1967, things are changing. There is a wonderful revitalisation. Culture is reborn. It's different, it's evolved, and it's exciting. So, Kuramanya, my tale is done.